And I'm going to start us off with a prayer. So, placing my hands on my heart, focusing a lot on that high heart center these days. Breathing deeply into that heart space, allowing ourselves to connect to our hearts. To connect to our higher Holy Spirit self that dwells within. We're so very grateful and thankful to be heart connected right here, right now, with these beautiful souls. Grateful for being willing to be the two or more who are gathered in the name and the nature of love. Grateful for our willingness to know the truth of our being, which is divine, perfect innocence, unconditional love. To claim that as the truth and to allow any seeming blocks to that love to fall away easily and effortlessly back to the nothingness from which it came, to be composted and transformed back into love. We're grateful for our mighty companions, our earthly and heavenly helpers. We ask that they join us now, blessing everyone here, all who may listen later. Leading us, guiding us, inspiring us for our conversation today. Allowing our hearts and minds to be true and to accept all that is ours to hear. We're grateful to be wonderful receivers with open hearts and open minds, claiming the kingdom of heaven, the power of God right here and right now for ourselves. And we're so very grateful that we get to share the benefits of all that we receive, all the blessings, all that we are with Mother Earth and all her beings, because we are one. In grace and divine gratitude, we let it be. And so it is. Amen. So welcome everybody. Hi, Carolyn. Good to see you. Hi, Carol. All right. So we are still in chapter 5, the Holy Spirit. And this week we're focused on section 7, the question of karma. And I'm going to start us in paragraphs 2 and then just one sentence from 5. Just, yeah. So he says in paragraph 2, one of the main dangers of karmic theories is the tendency that they induce to engage in the genetic fallacy, overlooking the truly religious fact that now is the only time. And then I loved what he said down below. The genetic fallacy is a logical fallacy in which the validity of an idea is evaluated on the basis of who or where it came from. For example, Bertrand Russell is a godless atheist, so we know his opposition to the Vietnam War must be wrong. And remember, that's around the time when this was written. Jesus, however, switches the application of the genetic fallacy from ideas to person. Now it means seeing the validity of a person as based on where that person came from, i.e., on what he or she was in the past. This is probably why Jesus calls most theories of karma magical. A cause is magical when it claims to produce an effect it cannot logically produce. To think that a person's past, which does not exist, can cause who that person is now is not logical. It is magical. And then he goes on in paragraph 2 to say, They look to the past for an explanation of the present, but do not succeed in separating the past from the present. They recognize that mind is the builder, but do not realize that it is only what it is building now that really generates the future. The past in itself does not have the ability to do this. Whenever we move from one instant to the next, the previous one no longer exists. And then in 5, in the second sentence, he just says, are you interested in healing insanity or studying its past? And so I was relating to this a lot this week, based on what's happening in the world and what's happening in my own personal world. And obviously it brought up lesson 289, the past is gone, it can touch me not. And I can feel it being played out, not only in the world at large, but in my own personal experience right now, as my husband has begun dialysis again, and my mind wants to go back to what that experience was like when he went through it for 6 years, up until 2018. And all that that entailed, because that was a very challenging time for both of us. I was also caring for my mother at that time. So like, I really just had this sense that my entire life was put on hold because I could only focus on those 2 things, right? And so there's this like gut reaction that my body wants to react like, oh, great. You know, now all of these things that I have had coming up, inspiration in my mind, I can't move forward with them because like my mind is telling me all these stupid fucking stories right now. And so, and it also reminds me of why talk therapy doesn't work for me and many other people that I've talked to, because it's so focused on the past. But what came to me like a healing balm in reading this was another experience from the past, but it was a good one to remind me of what to do in this moment. Is when Carla and I were in the spiritual counseling training intensive in 2016, Jennifer led this meditation where we were focusing on our high heart and seeing it as a golden light orb. And we were doing this meditation for like 15 or 20 minutes every morning. And throughout the time that we were doing the meditation, she would just occasionally say, where is your focus? Where is your focus? And so I thought to myself, well, that is a much gentler way of reminding me of what my focus is. So when my mind goes to, oh, great, now it's just going to be like it was before, you know, whether it's what's going on in the larger world or whether it's what's going on in my own household, if I can hear Jennifer's voice in my head saying gently, where is your focus? Then I can come back to the here and the now, and I can focus on my breathing. I can focus on, you know, the fact that my house is warm, even though it's only in the 20s outside. I can focus on the fact that we have enough food to eat, that we have enough money to pay our bills in this moment. Like, we are safe right now. So anyway, so that's just what that one section brought up for me. It was felt like it was a great section. Mm-hmm. So that's where I'm starting us off. Go ahead, Dana.
Linda, can you just repeat the lesson you said it refers back to?
Yes, lesson 289. The past is gone. It can touch me not. Carolyn, go ahead.
Yeah, I can hardly hear you. It's very low.
Oh,
and I have my auto up high. I don't know.
Yeah, same for me. Everybody's really loud except you.
Everybody's loud but me. Okay.
And I didn't know, as I put in the chat, I know you said chapter 5, but where were you?
Section 7, the question of karma. Oh, sorry, Carolyn, I didn't see that before I got started. I'm just gonna check my settings for my audio too.
Section 7, the decision for God?
No, the question of karma. We're in the purple book. The not the Foundation for Inner Peace version. We're in the Circle of Atonements version.
Oh. I could probably bring up Circle of Atonement and go in theirs, maybe.
Yeah, they have an app. I can post that again.
I might have it, Linda.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I think.
Is the question of karma in the FIP edition? Because
I
it
honestly don't know.
might just be a different number.
I got it.
All right, awesome blossom. Okay.
I'll
Does
go.
anybody else? Go ahead, Kathleen.
So I like this whole thing. I just underlined practically everything in there. The very first paragraph, the chief value of the concept of karma lies in its helpfulness in counteracting the idea of hell. I love that. A belief that's hard for the ego to relinquish. So that's really its only use. Yeah, you live over and over again. And I've used that in my mind a lot. Like for people that are dying gruesome deaths, I'll say, well, it's only one life. Um, or when I was doing past life regressions with the Seth group, it was just so much fun, and we all appear in some other life and know that we're together. And but then I think about Gary Renard's book, Disappearance of the Universe, and Art and Purse are like, don't get all like, yeah, karma, yeah, maybe it's real. I'm not karma, maybe reincarnation is real, yeah, but so what? Yes, there's aliens, don't get all excited. It's still a dream, just like, and then down where it says, what is it? In the Yeah, in number 6, I'm quite willing to tell you about your past when it's no longer of any interest to your ego. And if it is help to someone else, otherwise it would be much better to devote yourself to knowing God. Because when I was doing therapy in my 30s, I was so excited because it's like, oh, my past explains why I'm so unhappy and depressed and feel like attacking people. I'm so happy that we now we know that, and now we can go back into our past and yell and scream at those people and then get over it. So it seemed like it worked, but I don't think it did. It got me deep into thinking I was a ritual abuse survivor, an incest survivor, which I was, but the ritual abuse survivor, I don't think so. And then I thought, well, that's a different life. But anyway, whatever. I really like it that now I don't have to think that way anymore. I'm just who I am in the moment, and I'm devoting myself to knowing God. And today's lesson is really cool. I did that lesson too, where you write down, I see myself as blah, 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 blah. And it just keeps running through my head, everything I'm doing. Oh, I see myself as a body, that's for sure. And a nice person talking to her neighbor. Oh, I'm nice. I'm this, I'm that. So that's kind of fun to do that. I see myself as exercise. Um, and then after each one add, but my mind is part of God's. I am very holy. My inside kid loves it. It's like, I am very holy. I just want to walk around the town going, I am very holy. So are you. So are you. Anyway,
I wonder what kind of reaction you would get. That would be fun to
you
post.
know, or a t-shirt. I am
Yeah.
very holy, and so are you, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that too. That whole the um playing with the past, whether you're talking about therapy or even do like ancestry com kind of thing.
Mhm.
Like playing with the past, or even doing like your enneagrams or any of those things, your astrology. I
Mhm.
think they can be helpful if you use them to be kinder and gentler to the parts of you that can be a little prickly or a bit of an asshole. Basically. Um, but if you, hello, sweetheart. But if you go into a space where you're just like, oh, all these horrible things happen to me, and I'm a victim of this, and I can never change, and I can never grow out of that. I'm like, oh, hell no. No, 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 no. That's not what the therapy is for. The therapy is for to remind you that you are one, that there are so many other people that have had experiences it very similar to what you have experienced, and they have found ways out of it. It's like the whole message of the crucifixion. Like the whole message of the crucifixion was to show that we are eternal. That yes, this body will die, but we are eternal. So, do I want to focus on all of the crap that came from my past? No, I don't. I know that it's there. I know that it makes up parts of me that um, can go into dark spaces, that can go into depression or anxiety. I know it makes up some of the parts of me that have those gut reactions initially when I'm experiencing something. But I also know that those same experiences have made me more compassionate, especially with other people. And as I get to be more compassionate with other people, then I can be more compassionate to myself when I'm being an asshole, because it happens. you know so yeah, so in that way I think the past is helpful. But if you want to live there and just continue to think of yourself as a victim of your past, that's not helpful at all. That's like sitting at the bottom of a well and just going, oh well, I might as well give up, instead of yelling if you hear somebody go past. To me, that's what it kind of feels like. So anyway, Caroline, sorry. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm so grateful like that you're talking like this because up until, the lessons, if everybody's talking about like how they're missing the mark, I don't believe A Course in Miracles is about that. I believe The Course in Miracles is about us rising up to the divinity that we are.
Yes.
And one quick thing, so maybe you could use this as an affirmation. Science of Mind says the past does not set a precedent. Precedent.
Yes.
I heard you share.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes. I appreciate that.
Linda, can I ask a question? It's Homera.
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay, so I agree that focusing on the past doesn't, it's not helpful. It's maybe helpful to process something for someone, but it's not helpful to stay in the past. I'm just wondering, as a counselor, how do you make sense though, like when somebody comes to you and they're so used to this sort of psychodynamic approach where they're looking, at the unconscious mental processes and the internal conflicts, and looking at how a person's behavior, thoughts, and emotions is an interplay between conscious and unconscious, and a lot of it like focusing on early childhood experiences. How do you explain that? How do you approach that?
Well, for me, and I think a lot of it has to do with all the different kinds of trainings that I've had, like the Bert Hellinger's family constellation stuff and the internal family system stuff and the Enneagram stuff, is I can explain to somebody, okay, those are parts of you. Those are things that happen to you. But what would you like your life to be like right now?
Hmm.
What would you like your focus to be on right now? And know that there are going to be times when your mind pulls you back into that old pattern of I'm a victim of the world because of my past. but I have talked to so many different people, and what I can say is there is not a single person that is so broken and so wounded that they cannot come back from their victimization. And I can say that because I know that for myself. I've seen it for myself. I can say that because I know that for a lot of you. I can say that because I know that from a lot of my clients. I know that from a lot of family and friends. And I also know that there are people that that's their lot in life, is to live in that space of being a victim of the world. And my job is to say, okay, if that's where you want to live, that's fine. But I still see the Christ light in you. I still see you as whole, perfect, and complete. I still see you as, yes, you may be doing things out in the world that seem to be destructive or self-destructive, but I know that the highest part of you is still a child of God, is still the light of the world, is still love and nothing but love.
You know, I mean, I may not say that out loud, but I certainly hold that in mind when I am working with someone.
Yeah.
But I also want to be mindful of like the early life experiences, right, that have happened to us have had influence on shaping our personality and our
Yeah.
behavior patterns, right?
Yeah.
So I guess I'm wondering, like, how do I approach that without, because one can be kind of like Pollyannish and spiritual,
Right.
like bypass, and we don't want to do that either. We want people to process through their pain, you know, feel it till you heal it. So I guess how do you hold that balance where you give you know, importance to their experiences and
Yeah.
yet that help them to not define themselves by that?
Yeah. And I think part of that is like feeling into the person that you're with, for one. And like when I'm leading the self-forgiveness letter writing workshops, I tell people at the very beginning, look, this is a self-forgiveness letter writing workshop.
Hmm.
But if you have something to forgive right now and you cannot see where your part is, and you're just so in the middle of the muck and mire of what happened, that the only thing you can do is try to figure out a way to forgive the other, start with that.
Hmm.
Start where you are and feel it fully and completely as you know, as safe as you feel to do that.
Really helpful. Thank you so much, Linda.
You're welcome. Go ahead, Dana. Go ahead.
I just some thoughts I had as I was listening to you talk about this, and I am not a practicing counselor at the moment. I have studied it and done some things in the past. I have degrees in it. So I would say I'm thinking of it more in terms of like what I'm thinking about is the idea of like the purpose and the function of focusing on the past. If the purpose and the function of looking at the past is to sit in that, then that is not going to be helpful. So I think as you work with clients, you have to find where that moment is of finding the staircase up and
Yes.
out, if that makes sense. So it's the value of the past is only in the insights that it provides for the present.
Right.
And so if that learning and that insight is not happening and we're just wallowing down in the well, those insights from the past are your stairwell. They're part of the stairwell up and out of the well. But if the person isn't interested in that stairwell, then you're probably not going to be a good fit. So,
Right.
and how long you sit in that well with that person before they get the insight, you know, is going to differ. But the ultimate aim is not to sit in the well. The ultimate aim is to look for the insight that helps bring you out of that, back to the present, and choices about where you are now and where you want to go, and how did the past inform where you are now. But if you and people will spend years on this. I mean, people will spend years in therapy and years of money just sitting in the well, at the bottom of the well. So I think that's how I imagine it. That's how I think of it in terms of the it's the usefulness of the past to a certain end. And if
Yeah.
if that's not both of your goal, to use it as a helpful tool out of the well, then you're probably not a good fit for the
Yeah.
client and counselor situation. I don't know. Those are some thoughts that came up for me as you were talking.
Exactly.
So
I
I
don't know if
love
that helps.
that, Dana. That was really, really helpful. And also when you talked about the well, like, how long do you sit in it? I think it differs for every person. And I
Yes.
think it's really important to also be able to sit in the well with the person,
Yes.
because
Absolutely.
that's where the healing happens. If you don't have the capacity, because most of our histories are because hurt people end up hurting people, right? They don't know how to hold space. So if you can hold space for that person to be in that well while keeping your eye on truth,
Right.
then you can, even energetically help them out of that, staying in that well and going over the story over and over again. Like, okay, what insights did you get, and how can we use that to help you come out of the well, and not just out of the well, but towards the heavens. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you.
And helping them
Yeah.
to realize that both places are legit. Like, even when you feel like you have healed from whatever well you were in, there are times when you can fall back into it, and that's okay. It's normal. It happens to everybody. And there are also times when at least for me and for other people that I've talked to, we can use our spiritual tools as a spiritual bypass or as a way to beat ourselves up to show us how much of a failure we are. Like, it's going to work for other people, but it's not going to work for me because I'm using this spiritual tool and it's not doing anything for me. But the thing is that spiritual tool isn't doing anything because I haven't really gone back and faced what part of me was feeling injured in that moment and what it was bringing up. I haven't really dealt with the emotions of it, and I haven't really looked at it. So we do have to be willing to be in the well ourselves, to allow others to be in the well, and to know that even when we come out of the well, there are moments when we're going to fall back in, and it's okay. It happens to everybody. It's not the end of the world. It doesn't mean you're especially wrong or broken or damaged. Kathleen.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Is it necessary to go into the well?
Absolutely not.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely not. I mean, if you feel like you have healed completely from all of the things from your past and that you don't get triggered or you don't have buttons pushed by anybody or anything around you that bring up things that are similar to what you've been through in the past, no.
I think what I'm talking about is the proactive going in, because things are always going to come up. And I feel that I will always be triggered, but to proactively go in and dig.
Oh, no, I don't
Dig.
encourage that.
Okay.
No, I mean, if somebody brings it up, this is what happened to me in the past, I'm like, okay, what'd you learn from it? What benefits have you gotten from that experience? So, and I'm going to say, would you like to feel those feelings? Have there been times recently where you've felt that same way? So there are definitely pros and cons to doing both. And it just depends on the individual and where they are.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Janet. Kathleen, go ahead.
Let's see, what came into my mind is that now if I get triggered and I'm having a down day, I tell myself I'm getting thoughts from everyone in the world. They're going through my head, and everyone's really bummed out right now because of Trump. And that's what's bumming me out. It's not my past. It's like picking up thoughts. And so then I attempt to stop thinking and listen. I'll crank up the music, or I'll chant Ho'oponopono, or yeah, because that it's not my thoughts. They're not my thoughts. I
Right.
don't claim them anymore. And I don't say they came from my past anymore. But when stuff does come up to be healed from the past, which it has in the past, it's to be healed, not to keep reliving it over and over, and which I did in my 30s when I was in therapy. And I got angry at my mother and I saw myself as a victim and I hurt her feelings, hurt her feelings. She said, "Oh, you really hurt my feelings." I'm like, "Mom, I was in therapy, get it." But anyway, we got over it. And but anyway, yeah, I just wanted to read that thing at the bottom of page 220, the second half of 89. It says what Jesus seems to be objecting to here regarding past life readings. All these crap calls. Is there heavy emphasis on gains and losses along with their explanation of the present as an effect of the past, both of which ultimately send a message of judgment. So now we're back to needing to write a forgiveness letter, right? So I'm judging myself for letting my grandfather sexually abuse me, or I'm mad at my mother for that, or judgment, 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 when in fact we don't know the meaning of anything. And it's all only for my learning that whole thing happened. And so, yeah, I just keep telling myself I don't know the meaning of anything. As the next paragraph says, his emphasis is on withdrawing belief in separation, not on evaluating its symbols. So memories are symbols of separation in the ego. But teach if you've got clients, you can't just start telling them that,
Right.
So you guys are,
Might have
bless
gone
you for being
very holy,
counselors.
so move on, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't counsel now. No, I cannot.
Thanks, Kathleen. Carla.
So what a little prayer I speak to myself before I really talk is that I want to be the empty vessel, because the thing that really stuck out to me that you spoke about, Kathleen, was thinking, leading our thoughts, right? All thought is shared, right? So, and I'll go into this before I'll go into that further, but paragraph 4, it says, you may be curious to know about your past. Knowledge is not won through curiosity, which is an ego attribute. So the truth is we are spirit, but yet we're here in a body. So we're kind of merging those two things. So we're learning, how do we do that? How do we speak only truth, or be from spirit, act from spirit, do actions, and yet we have to use ego. We have to maybe cross look both ways before we cross the street. We have to think, and we get stuck, we get caught up in the thinking. And what's really important is I notice is in the second paragraph, the line you read, the first line, one of the main dangers of karmic theories is a tendency that they induce is to engage in the genetic fallacy of looking. See, all that stuff doesn't feel like helpful to me. I mean, maybe that will be sometime. Right now, the only really helpful thing is the last part of the fact that now is the only time. So my feeling is to trust. Sometimes I don't know what's going to come out of my mouth. Sometimes things just, if I let go of thinking, then life, love, whatever God flows through us. It's the thinking we have to do, and it can happen many times when people were speaking. Mine was saying, "Oh, this is good. This is stay on stay," and I was thinking, "Oh, I want to share this. I want to share that." I'm like, "Oh, let go of wanting and to share it exactly right or whatever. That is all ego thinking." Spirit, the energy that we are, truth that we are, already knows. And that is what is teaching the ego self something through experiences, through words, through whatever it is at the moment. And how do I know this? Because I'm up to like 380 something poems or something. I don't think about what I'm gonna write. I have no idea. And some of them seem better than others. And that's judgment that I think they'll connect differently with different people, whatever. It's not up to me to decide that. It's up to each person that I share with. So I'm going to share a poem that I wrote in 2010. Now, I don't think I'd even heard of ACIM or all these theories, all these thoughts, all these concepts, all these things. And I'm just going to read it if I can find it. So here it is. It's called I Exist. I have heard you, and I have heard you say that I don't trust you. But the truth is that you don't trust yourself. You ask where I am, but I am with you. Just trust that I am not separate from you. I am with you. In fact, I am you and have always been here. Just be. And here it is. Don't think so much. And you will realize that I am with and part of you. I've just been waiting for you to believe in me. When you let go of the things you hold on to, you will find me. For I am not the past or the future. I exist in the moment. And isn't that exactly what we did? That now is the only time there is? And how the hell I knew that? The Carla didn't know that. I didn't plan on writing this. I let go of thinking and it just flowed through me. Life just flows. Love just flows. When I let go of the identity of the ego, or the ego identity, whatever you want to call it, the self, I get things right, the thinking, the false thinking. You don't have to know, Mary, what to say. You may have to think, you may have to just allow it. It'll come. And maybe don't judge it if it doesn't come the way you want. It will come. Trust. We've been talking about that, right, Dan and Carol, written the last couple of weeks. Trust, with how important trust is, and even Trump somehow, I don't know why, because it's not my place, that he's learning something. Maybe doesn't seem helpful, but salvation is not a minute or year or a day or a decade or even a lifetime. It's forever. We haven't stopped. That the whole thing was there evolution, or was God created, the world created in 7 days? What about if there's both? We don't know what a day could have been 1,000 years in our time, right? That could have been a day. There's no time with God. So I know this, we're still evolving. Each of us is here in this physical life to shift and grow and to do whatever we choose to do. We have free will. We can choose whatever we want to do. Everybody, Trump can, and that's the love of God. That's how beautiful love is. That however unhelpful his choices may seem to be, he is still loved. That will never change. We are still loved. Whatever we choose, whatever we think, or wherever we get caught or go, whatever, we are still loved. God doesn't pick and choose. Loves us all equally.
Yeah, thanks for the reminder, Carla. Go ahead, Dana.
I wasn't here last week, but I re-listened to and reread this morning the section from last week, and so I feel that it connects in my mind, this idea of like, in this section for today, talks about how the past cannot create. It cannot create the present or the future, right? So all we have is the now. And so you're thinking about the idea of like creative, and then Carla was talking about thinking. And so I went back and it brings up for me, I thought last week's was super powerful. Like a lot of things clicked for me. And so in thinking about the creative nature and what is creative, only God is creative, and then thinking about thinking, like as we talk about thinking, it brings up sections 11 and 12 from last week's chapter. It says, but remember that the alternatives are unalterable. The Holy Spirit, like the ego, is a decision. Together they constitute all the alternatives which the mind can accept and obey. The ego and the Holy Spirit are the only choices which are open to you. God created one, and so you cannot eradicate it. You made the other, so you can. Only what God creates is irreversible and unchangeable. What you have made can always be changed, because when you do not think like God, you have not really thought at all. Delusional ideas are not thought, but you can think that you believe in them. So here it's like defining what is actual thought and what is not. And then it goes on in 12 to say, but you are wrong. The function of thought comes from God and is in God. As a part of his thought, you cannot think apart from God, from him. Irrational thought is a thought disorder. God himself orders your thought because your thought was created by him. Guilt feelings are always a sign that you do not know this. They also show that you believe you can think apart from God and want to. And so I feel like these things connect very closely for me. And then I also wanted to say, I forgot about putting I think Hamera, you had asked me for that prayer that I pray. I'm trying to think of which prayer I
The
pray
one
for
for
my
your
son.
kids, the one
Yes.
yes.
And so I think it's so before, I think I shared this before, but this section from last week, this chapter from last week really explained the whole concept behind what my mother taught me, but I didn't understand the full concept of how it works years ago when she told me you can pray to undo the consequences of your unloving choices related to your like to relate to anything, Dana. But I would do it often, especially when my kids were little. When you're in it's just long days, lots of stuff happening. It feels like an eternity, that 14-hour day with your littles at home sometimes. And so that idea of like praying to undo the consequences of your choices, this chapter from last week literally explains how how that works, because you created those what you created isn't true and can be undone, but what God creates is the only thing that is unalterable. And of course what God is love, right? So this is how you can so to me anyway, that whole last week's chapter like explained the whole mechanism behind how that works. And it's all about that idea of like what is actually true thought and what is actually like creative and what is not, and what then can be undone. And so our unloving choices, which are done by us, can be undone by God, and and only that which is of God, only that which is good. I think that's the prayer that I was praying that you were thinking of, Humera. What I would pray when my kids went into the world was only that which was loving and of God would penetrate them, and everything else would like fall away, and they would not take that into their being. And so this last week's chapter really speaks to that. So sorry for the
So
long share,
beautiful
but
that you taught that to your kids. That's so beautiful that you're starting them out with that kind of mindset. That's just gorgeous to me.
well, they don't know it. I pray it for them.
But
They don't know that
regardless,
I'm doing it, but
energetically, we're
yeah.
all one, and you're sending that, to them, holding that for them. So yeah, beautiful.
Anyway, so thank you for the share. I enjoyed rereading last week's because it really helped. I'll put that prayer in the WhatsApp when I have some time. So anyway, but it sort of all makes sense in my mind now, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks, Dana. I know I love too when he was talking about that, and he was talking about the authority problem that we have. That we think that we can usurp God. Like, I picture the authority problem is like, in my mind, my 17-year-old self, like all dressed in black, kind of gothy, and like all this spiritual stuff is just bullshit. That's her attitude. It's like that, like God doesn't know anything, there is no God, like all that. But then you get to that point where you're like, okay, well, if there is no God, if there is no power greater than myself, then holy shit, I'm responsible for all of the horrible things in the world, all of the good things in the world, all of the challenging things in the world. So yeah, we have an authority problem. We want to usurp God, and at the same time, we're terrified of that kind of power. So yeah, we can't have a thought outside of God. Because that's
With the fires and everything in Los Angeles, and I think I shared that my nephew's home burnt down, and he's so identified with the victimhood of what happened, and from the perspective of like the physical what he sees as the physical reality, it makes sense, right? He's a young adult, he's and everything that he's known is gone, like on the thankfully not family, but like stuff, right? And it's so challenging to have a conversation with him, to help him to like hold truth in his mind. And he's not a materialistic person at all, but he feels like life is so unfair, life is so bad, life is so unpredictable, anything can be taken away from you at any moment. And I realized, like, I just need to he's just at that stage, like your goth period, Linda, where he's just like, the world sucks, and I can't you don't teach by preaching, you hold space, and I'm just holding space, and I'm sending prayers in my mind to his higher mind. But any suggestions you guys have to help him, I would be appreciated, because it's like he's so like not wanting to look at everything is for our highest good. And I can understand that. I know when I go through stuff, it's like the last thought that comes to my mind is, oh, this is for my best interest, right? I'm like, oh, this sucks. But yeah, so that's where he's at. So any suggestions you have would be great.
Like Dana said, he's in his well right now. And what came to my mind when you were sharing that was, I think this was probably before you were in the Power of Love ministry community, but we had a participant. Her name is Sheila, and she was affected by the hurricane Katrina. God, that was some time ago now, but she lost her home. All of her family lost their homes. They lost their businesses. They owned their own business. They lost everything,
Wow.
like the clothes on their backs. And like, seeing that on the surface, you would say, holy crap, that's just a horrible thing to have to go through. But it was less than 6 months later, she went to one of Jennifer's retreats, and she had that experience where she was in the hall where they were going to hold class, and she was helping Jennifer out. And Jennifer asked her if she had a pen, and she was looking in her purse for a pen. And she pulled out this huge bottle of ibuprofen, and she just like stopped dead in her tracks. And Jennifer said to her, Sheila, are you okay? What's going on? And she said, Jennifer, I just realized that I used to take numerous doses of these ibuprofen every single day for all kinds of different aches and pains that I had in my body. She said, I have not taken them for weeks, and I didn't even realize it, that pain was gone.
Mm.
And that pain was connected to all of the stuff
Mm.
that she was holding on to with her family's home, with her children's families' homes, with her business. Like all of that stuff were things that she was like holding on to so tightly. And when they were just all blown away by the hurricane, she had nothing to hold on to anymore. And the pain went away. So I'm sure your nephew is not at this space yet, because I don't know what his spiritual connections are, but I feel like there will be a time where he will look back on this time and he will go, oh, okay,
Mm.
the things that I've gained from this experience. But
I hope so. I'm holding that for him. Yeah.
right
Thank
now,
you.
obviously, is not the time, because he's in the physical pain of it, of that reality.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Sorry, something that came to mind, Humira. Sorry, I feel like I'm talking. I was like, not even going to have a share today. I told myself, I don't really have a share today. The thought that came to me, Humira, is this idea of like, faith is, often it takes a while to form, right? And so you said he's young still, so this is part of that formation process for him. Like a lot of us here, I mean, I'm only 45, right? But so when I think about where I was in my early 20s, I mean, I did have faith, but I wanted it, and I did have it, but I literally remember like daily my mother would have to remind me of some of these truths and things, because I feel that faith takes time, like experiences that you look back on then and you see like, oh, in this moment, it felt like this. Or even maybe for years, it felt like this. And then you see the fruit, you see the lessons, you see the insight, you see God's work in your life. And that's what takes time. It takes time in our lives for those experiences to unfold, for us to look back, see the lessons, see God's faithfulness, see what God was doing, what we could not see with our limited eyes at that moment, our limited human, through the limited human lens. And then you add like, being so young in your body as well. So though it takes time, I think, for those really formative experiences of faith to kind of unfold in our lives. So this, hopefully, as Linda said, will be one of those times. But right now he's in the well and he can't see outside of it. But as someone who, I will say, I always had my mother there, always, my whole life, reminding me of truth. And so I feel that maybe that's your role in his life, Humira, is to just continue to, as you feel that you can, where it doesn't push him away, and for him to be like, F God and F all this, try to be just that reminder, that gentle, peaceful reminder of truth, and or just to be a loving presence in the well. And so that when he is outside that well, he can look back and see all the lessons and see how his life unfolded, have his ibuprofen moment. I don't know, that's what I was thinking as you were talking.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Very encouraging. Yeah, I wanted for him so bad because I see him in so much pain, and I know that, when I've been in a lot of pain, that even a little bit of faith, or even like it's helpful, right? But when we're not grounded in anything and you think that everything is just happening to you and not for you, it's really scary, and it's leaves you feeling really, I mean, he has severe anxiety issues, so I could see him being grounded in some truth could help him so much. But I can't, like you said, Dana, I just have to hold space, and he has to go through his own process. That's my uncomfortability with seeing him uncomfortable, so I have to just allow him.
Well, hold that image that you have of what you want to
Mm.
see, where you want to see him. Hold that image in your
Mm.
mind. That's very powerful.
Yeah.
See him there. He
Right,
may not get
right.
there today or tomorrow or this year, but see him there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you.
The concept of short-term pain for long-term gain sounds like it applies here. He's in the, I want to get it done now and I want this over now, but there's a process that needs to happen. And when he's finally out of it and understands, he's going to be like, oh, that's why. So,
Mm.
and how old is he?
21.
Yeah, and he completely grew up in a place of instant gratification. There's no patience. We get everything we literally want right now. You can buy something now and not have to pay for it for 5 years.
Right.
That's the society we live in now. So us, everybody on this call, we had a time where you had to wait for things.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't understand. He doesn't have that. That's not in his conscious. So the concept of short-term pain for long-term gain, he's in that. And I know it's hard as a mom to see your children suffering, but yeah, and I speak of it because I have had numerous experiences like this where you're like, why am I going through this now? You just want it over.
Yeah.
But the benefit of it, a year, 2 years, 3 years down the road will rear its head and you'll be able to see it. So yeah, just kind of
Thank you so much, guys. That's so helpful. Even like, the story you shared, Linda, about the ibuprofen, like that's, yeah, I get a visual with that. And
Mm,
yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you all.
Yeah.
Thank you, Daniel. We have
Yeah.
like less than 5 minutes left. I want to, yeah, Penelope. I was just going to say somebody that hasn't shared yet.
I just wanted to just kind of say, speaking to what Humira was talking about, that is it possible, Humira, particularly at the age of 21, if he could be experiencing, and I don't know obviously how long, I know you were on the call a while ago, and I don't know how long it had, since it happened, but how, we can go into that place of shock.
Yeah.
And I say that because, at 19, I had something traumatic happen to me, and it's hard to even pinpoint, but it probably would have been in shock for a long, long time to even, begin to call on some of the sort of strengths that we all have within us, even if he doesn't necessarily identify with those strengths yet. He doesn't necessarily see them himself, but, they are within him. So just a thought, Humira.
Yeah, definitely he is in shock. I think his mother is in shock. The difference is his mom is just amazingly resilient, and she's mobilized, she's doing things, whereas I feel like my nephew is more like trying to escape, avoid, and like just, yeah, frozen kind of. So definitely there's, yeah, it just happened on the 7th of January. It's not that long ago.
Right.
And you're right, there's a process that happens with thawing out, when we're frozen like that from trauma. Yeah, thank you for that share.
Yeah, he might, if he's open to it, the book, What Happened to You, super helpful.
What happened to you? Okay, who is that by?
It's Dr. Robert Perry and Oprah Winfrey.
Okay, I love Dr. Robert Perry.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Awesome. Kathleen talks about him all the time. Or is it Catherine? Catherine, right?
Nope, Kathleen.
Kathleen, that's right,
Awesome.
Kathleen. That's right.
Yeah, and we can all pray for him. Absolutely.
Please, yes, I would really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
What's his name?
August. We call him Augie.
August. All right. I love
Thank
that
you.
name. All right. Well, we are 1 minute to the top of the hour. What a full and beautiful conversation it's been. So next week we will continue chapter 5. We're moving on to section 8, the crazy section. So I always say section 8, God's higher court. Section 8 in the services is when you're discharged because you're a little on the wackadoodle side. So I'm going to read from our Pathways of Light friends. for the insights for today's lesson, which is perfect for the conversation we've been having today. The lesson is, my mind is part of God's. I am very holy. Today, I'm being asked to take illusions to the truth. I am being asked to look very closely at the self-image I had made. I am being asked to look at the situations I see myself in and look at the thoughts that go with it. What is the self-image that goes with this situation? Then I am asked to take this image to the truth. Unless I am willing to look very closely at this self-image I have made, it will remain unconscious and not healed. But the closer I look at this self-image with the Holy Spirit, the sooner it will be undone. The truth for myself and everyone is that we are all part of God's mind. God's holiness is ours. Today's lesson is an important part of retraining my mind. With today's lesson, I am learning to pay attention to what self-image I am reinforcing, and then to hand it over. All the images I have made are false because God is mind. I am mind. I am willing to look at these images today and take them to my source to be undone. Recognizing that I am the perceiver of this world, I can choose to relinquish my belief in the ego thought system of separation. I can choose to perceive the truth of my mind. My mind is part of God's. I am very holy. This perception aligns my mind and my thoughts with the one mind and releases my belief in thoughts of separation. Today, I choose to focus on and remember the truth of who I am. My mind is part of God's. I am very holy. Repeating this affirmation brings me peace and joy because it is a reflection of my true self. Today's idea brings great relief. It tells me that I am not the vulnerable, alone, and fearful image that I have thought I was. It tells me that I am innocent, for I could not be guilty and also be holy and in the mind of God. When I look at all the various attributes that came to mind when I did the exercise, I realized that all those attributes were ways of distinguishing myself from others and therefore being separate. My mind cannot be part of God's and remain separate. So each time I remind myself that my mind is a part of God's and I am very holy, I reclaim my innocence. I reclaim my place in God's mind. I affirm God's completeness and my own. I reclaim the strength of God as mine. I reclaim myself. I am grateful to be reminded that littleness is not my inheritance, but rather the grandeur of God is mine and everyone's. No one has less or more, for God has given all of himself to all. I rest in gratitude and joy. What I appreciate about these lessons is that they make me very aware of my thoughts and actions. There is so much mind wandering, and I tend to treat that as normal, expected, and harmless because I am not aware of it in a conscious way. Doing lessons like this one brings these thoughts into focus and reminds me that they are indeed real thoughts with effects. This lesson saves me from my terminal uniqueness. I am no longer apart from, different than, separate from anyone. My mind is part of God's. I am very holy. My identity is established, and I no longer have to surround myself with reflections of a limited, unhappy, depressed, frozen self. I have the wings of an eagle. I'm tired of flopping and flapping around with the tiny wings of a sparrow. Amen to that. Let's all do that. Yeah. Thank you, everybody, so much.
It was
for,
beautiful.
just a wonderful.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Linda. Love
Yeah.
you guys.
Thank you.
Love you all.
You.
Have a great week. See you next week. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you.